Hello all, very good morning. Am I audible for everyone?
Yes, Shinshija.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
You're able to see the screen as well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So let us start today's session. In today's class, let us understand still more deeper concept of methods. That is, I have created some examples for you. Okay, let us open these examples. Okay, please observe this example. I have a class called calculator class, simple calculator class with few methods like add methods. From here to here we call it as method body, or we call it as method signature, and this is called as implementation. That is, whatever the logic we write inside a method is called as method implementation or method logic. Within this is called as method body. Another method called as multiple method, another method called divide method. Okay, if you observe this carefully, within the method I have two data. These data, that is the first number and the second number, I perform an operation called addition operation, and system.out.println prints the message. So first number is 20, second number is 40. So when we add these two numbers, it is 60, and I'm printing the data 60. Similarly, the same thing I'm doing in the other way. These are all just different examples I'm just considering. So I'm adding two numbers, the same thing what I have done here, the same one or the similar operation I'm doing here, but the result, that is 20 plus 40 is the 60. The 60 result I'm assigning into a variable. Assigning the data into a variable is called as initialization. It's called as initialization. I have assigned this data, or I have initialized a variable called add result, and I'm printing it. Obviously it prints 60. One simple example. Okay. Another type of example here. There is another method called multiply. What this multiply method does is it's going to multiply two numbers. The first number is called as 40 and 50, so we get the result as 2000. This result called 2000 I am returning. So if you observe, 2000 is the result or the data. The data type of this 2000 is an integer value. The data type is an integer value. So since I'm returning an actual value called 2000 and the type of the data is integer, hence the return type is also called as an integer. This is called return type. Okay, so this is one example. Another example, there is a method called divide method. It is taking two input. This method is taking two input, that is the first number and the second number. Please observe, when you divide the first number along with the second number, you may get a decimal value. You may get, you may not get. Okay, when you get a decimal value, I'm storing the decimal value in another variable called result. Hence I have considered the data type of this result as float, because float is used to store a decimal numeric value. Decimal numeric value. Okay, decimal numeric value, and I'm returning that result. Okay, returning the result. The data type of result is float, hence the return type of a method is also float. So this is one example for the method. So totally I have 1, 2 and then 3 methods. Okay, Just observe, I've written one more method. What I'm doing in this method is, within the method called perform calculation. So there is a method called perform calculation. Within the method, this is called method implementation. Within the method, I'm calling other methods. Observe, I'm calling another method called invoke method. Sorry, multiply method. I'm calling another method called multiply method. Here I'm calling a method called add method. Here I'm calling a method called divide method. So one method of a class called calculator can call other methods like multiply method, add method, divide method directly. I'll repeat this. A method of a class can call the other methods of the same class directly like this. Okay, directly I'm calling. It need not to be public. Since I have not introduced what is the meaning of public, let me remove this. Okay, this is a simple method. What is the meaning of this void? Can anyone answer? What is the meaning of this void? We have already seen this in the last class.
Means that it doesn't return anything.
Yes, the method does not return anything. That's the meaning. Okay, the method called perform calculation is not returning any value. It's not returning any value. When a method does not return any data or any value, then we need to mention it as void. Okay, that's the meaning. So we know how to invoke or call a method. Here you need to understand one very important thing. I'm calling a method called multiply method. Multiply method is returning me some value. Typically in this example, it's returning me a data or the value called 2000. So when you call the method, it's going to return some data, and that data I'm accepting here. That data I'm accepting here. Just let me explain with the paint. Please observe. So this is a method. In this method, there is something called return statement. I'm actually returning a value called 2000. So this is called return data or a value and the data type of this result, that is a returning value, is an integer value. Hence I have taken this also an integer value. What is the meaning? The method called multiply method returning a value, and the data type of the value is an integer, and this we call it as a return type. This we call it as return type. Okay, now if I consider this, especially this one, just observe this. I'm calling a method called multiply method. This multiply method returning a value. What is a value in this case? It is 2000, and the data type of 2000 is integer. Hence I'm accepting this with the data type called integer. So this is typically we call this as This is called accepting the data when a method is returning a value. Okay, this is very important. This looks very simple as of now, but when I introduce object orientation, chances that the method may return some object. At that time, it will not be simple data types like integer, float, but the return type or this acceptance type will be an object type. At that time, you will be chances that you will be confused. That's why consider this carefully. Okay, and this is simple example indeed. Clear? Another hint, the return type of the method here and the acceptance type must be same, as simple as it. When you're calling the method, the return type of the method and the acceptance type must be same. This is a simple hint for you. Okay, just observe, that is what I have done here. And now the value, this multi result, that is the result of multiplication of two number, is 2000, and I'm printing that value. What does it print? It prints the message multiplication result is 2000. Multiplication result is 2000. Okay, and I'm calling another method called add method. The add method is not returning me anything. Just observe, the return type is void. And also I'm calling another method called divide method, and I'm passing the value. So let me delete this and let me explain this as well. To make it more simple, let me write like this. Okay, and I'm calling okay. Let us understand this. Okay, there is a method called divide method. This divide method taking two inputs. This is first input and this is the second input, and we call this input as parameters. So how many parameters are there? Two parameters are there. Hence, when we are calling the method called divide, I need to pass two data because the method is taking two input. Hence, I need to pass two data, and these two data are called as arguments. This is called as arguments. So this is accepting the data. At the accepting end, it is called as parameter, and at the passing end, it is called as argument. The number of parameters and the number of arguments must be same. Here it is 2, here also it must be 2 compulsorily. Okay, one thing. Next, the method, when we are invoking or calling a method, the method is called, method is executing the logic, the internal logic within the method is executed. I'm passing 20 and 2. This value becomes 20, this value becomes 2. 20 divided by 2 is 10. But I have taken the data type as float, that is decimal, hence the result become 10.0, and it is returning 10.0. The data type of 10.0 is float, hence the return type of the method is also float. This is called return type. The return type of the method is called as float. Okay, that is, when you call the method, this method returns a data called 10.0 and the data type of this is float. Hence you need to store that data, hence create another variable called float and some result, something like result equal Okay, this and this must be same. Now I can print system dot out dot println of result. So system dot out dot println prints on the console the result. What result is printed? 10.0. If I want to print with a meaningful message, as like I did here, like division result is 10.0. Okay, this is what the method perform calculation does. So remember, the method can be called any number of times. I can call the add method once again, perfectly possible. Okay, any number of times you can call the method in whatever the sequence of your choice. Here the sequence of method is add, multiply, divide. But here I'm calling multiply, add and then divide. So the sequence of methods can be anything. And any number of times a method can be called. Okay, simple basics, language basics. Okay, now last class we discussed and we stopped and we were supposed to discuss about something called object. You remember this? We were supposed to start with a topic called object. Now please understand, as like the multiply method, divide method and all this, main is also another method. One second, just give me a second. Main is also another method, but main method is static. Observe, perform calculation is a non-static method, divide method is a non-static method, multiply method is also a non-static method. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 non-static method and one main method which is static. Okay, so totally how many methods we have? 5 methods. Out of that, main method is static. Okay, now whenever I run a class called calculator class, okay, whenever I have a class, any dot class file, in our case it is called calculator dot class. This dot class file must have an engine. That engine is called as public static void main. I'm writing the shortcut. Okay, public static void main. When you give this as an input, when you give this dot class as an input to the JVM we already seen, JVM is present as the part of GRE within the client's computer. When you pass this as an input to the JVM, first thing what JVM does is JVM loads this dot class file into memory. This is the first thing. I'll repeat. Whenever we give dot class file as an input to the JVM, first thing what JVM does is JVM loads this particular dot class file into its memory, and you should be knowing this. Last class or in the first or second class I already explained, ultimately the JVM uses RAM memory. Correct? This is a dot class file. It is a file as like a txt file, word file, image, or like any other file. Dot class is also one file, and this dot class file generally is present in hard disk, your local hard disk. So the JVM is present as the part of the RAM, and your dot class file is present as the part of hard disk. So this dot class file must be loaded from hard disk to your RAM memory. This is done by whom? JVM. And this process is called as class loading. This process is called as class loading. Okay, remember this. This is the first step. Okay, second step. Second step. Second step is the JVM invoke main method of the loaded class. That is, it's going to call the main method. When JVM calls the main method is executed. Okay, main method is executed. When a main method is executed, coming back to our example, when the main method inside calculator.class is executed, here there is no logic. So no logic or no implementation is present to execute. It is like an empty method. Observe, it is an empty method. Since there is no logic present in this main method, nothing is executed. So what I'm supposed to do to call this multiply method or to execute the divide, add method and all, these are all the methods which are invoked within another method called perform calculation. Hence, I need to call this method from my main method. From my main method, like this. Right? Within this method, I'm calling a method called add, divide, multiply. Similarly, I need to call a method called perform calculation from my main method, so that whenever JVM calls my main method, internally main method is going to call perform calculation method. Perform calculation method internally calls add method, multiply method, divide method and all the other methods sequentially. This is the flow. Okay, but syntactically, that is as per the grammar of Java, main method cannot call other methods directly like this. This is wrong syntax. This is called wrong syntax. Okay, a main method is a static method. A static method can call other non-static methods by creating an object. Now we generally get questions, what is an object, how to create an object and the details of an object. Okay, just remember the syntax to create an object. Even before understanding what is the meaning of object, I'm just taking you through how to create an object. Okay, certainly we will understand the meaning of object in detail in today's class, but before we see that details, just let me create an object. These are all the methods which is present within a class called calculator. Hence, I need to create an object of calculator. This is how I create an object of a class by name calculator. Okay, so we have understood one thing, that is object is created by using class. Remember, if you don't have the class, you cannot create any object. Very, very important. So the main thing for us to create an object is the class. So I have a class, and within the class, inside the main method, I'm creating an object of that class. What is the syntax? Class name, reference, new keyword. This is new, means it is going to create a new object. That is the meaning of new. And this is the class name. This is something else. Let us talk about this in later stage, not now. As of now, you can say class name, object name. new operator. New operator means it is used to create a new object, and again the class name with this empty parenthesis. Okay, this is very important. So this is how I create an object. Using this object and using the dot operator, I can call any methods which are present within this particular class. What are the methods? Add method is there, multiply method is there, divide method, perform calculation, any method of your choice. Now I'm going to call this method. I'm going to call that method. Okay, so using the dot operator on the object, I can call the method. The summary is this: to create an object, we need a class. Without the class, we cannot create any object. Once I create an object from a particular class, using this object, I can call any method any number of times using the dot operator. I can call once again calculator dot perform calculation. You can call it once again. Choice is yours. I mean, I know that this is a meaningless code, but still, I'm just to demonstrate, you can call the method any number of times by using the object, and this is the syntax of creating the object. Clear? So just to summarize, in this today's class we discussed how to write multiple methods, how one method can call the other methods, okay, how main method can call other non-static methods, that is by creating an object, and what is the flow in which my dot class is executed. The dot class, which is the part of the hard disk, is given as an input to JVM. JVM first loads this dot class to its memory, and this process is called as class loading, and then JVM internally going to call the main method. Main method is executed only once. Remember, JVM executes the main method only once. So you inside the main method, we can call any other method any number of times, but by using the object. Clear? So shall we practically execute this dot class? But as of now, we do have only dot Java program. We don't have dot class file. So let us create, or let us compile and create the dot class file, and then we will execute this dot class file. Before I do that, if you have any questions, you can ask me.
Shishira, Shweta here.
Tell me, Shweta.
How does it affect to the system when we call a method multiple times? So how does it affect in the system or to the system?
How does it affect the system in the sense, what do you mean by a system in this context?
Like we are calling, if we are calling add method multiple times, so what will be the effect? I want to
Okay,
ask.
what is the result?
Yeah.
Okay. See, please observe this. I'm calling the perform calculation once. Once when I call this method, the internal logic is executed. Internally, this perform calculation is going to call multiply, add, divide. So when it is going to call the multiply method is called, it is going to multiply the result. Similarly, you're calling the same method 3 times, hence this method is called 3 times, and it is internally going to call the other methods. So the result is add method, multiply method, divide method is executed 3 times. It is just an execution. Imagine you have a calculator. Imagine that physically, okay? You have a calculator, one physical calculator. Forget about Java program. You have a physical calculator. Once you perform 40 multiplied by 50, you get 2000 as the result. What do I do? Once again I do the same thing. Does it really affect my calculator? Not certainly,
No.
right? but any number of times I can execute. It is an operation. Okay, imagine we are an object and morning I eat breakfast. So eating the breakfast is my behavior, and daily morning I eat the breakfast. Possibility I can eat the breakfast or I can have the breakfast twice, thrice, correct? So
Yeah.
it's like an operation which you are performing repeatedly. Okay, as simple
Okay.
as it. This is just I have taken all these things to make you more comfortable with writing the methods, invoking the method, and calling other methods or invoking other methods using main method. That's all. But this in realistic time or in the project context, this has no meaning at all. Clear?
Oh, yeah, clear.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I shall continue now. Fine. So let me take out all this. Sorry. I've now in the final code, I'm creating an object of the calculator and calling the method called perform calculation only once. Hence perform calculation is executed only once, and it is internally going to call multiply, add, divide method only once. Okay. Now let me, in which folder it is present. This .java is present in a folder in the D drive Shishira materials folder. Okay, I'll have to compile this. Let me open command prompt. Let me open command prompt. Let me go to D drive, change the directory to Shishira. Under that, materials, clear the screen. Observe D Shishira materials, we have Java programs, and my command prompt is also pointing to the same directory, D Shishira materials. Now what is the command? Javac stands for Java compiler, calculator.java. This is the name of my Java program. Hit enter. If my Java program is proper, successfully Java program is compiled and we get .class file. Observe this .class file. Once I get the .class file, there is no use of this .java for me. Okay. Now I need to execute or I need to run this .class file. The command to run the .class file is Java and the name of the class. Name of the class is calculator. Java calculator. Hit enter. See, it is printing. Multiplication result is 2000. 60 is the result that you get after adding. You're printing the result as 60. Observe, when my main method is executed, I've created an object calling the method called perform calculation. Inside the perform calculation, first I'm calling a method called multiply. So multiply method is called. It is returning me a value called 2000. This return value is stored in this variable and I'm printing that value. What is the value? 2000. It prints system.out.println and multiplication result is 2000. Multiplication result is 2000. And after that I have called the method called add method. The method called add is executed. It is adding 20 plus 40 here. The result of 20 plus 40 is 60. It simply prints the method called value called 60 here. And after that I'm calling another method called divide method with the value 22. So 20 is the first number, 2 is the second number, 20 divided by 2 is 10, but the data type is float, hence it returns 10.0. That return value I'm printing here. Division result is 10.0. division result is 10.0. This is how the execution happens. Okay. So any question in the sequence, understanding the sequence of execution? Just remember it starts with main method. If you don't have the main method, it gives you an exception. Okay, the JVM gives you an exception. Any questions here? No. I have another example just to demonstrate. Okay, this is done. Let me close this. I have another example. This example, these are all just today I have created these examples for you to understand on to get more clarity about the methods. Okay, there is a class called login test case. This is typically the QA or the testers that test the functionalities like login functionality. What do we do generally to check the login functionality? We open the browser, we enter the URL. For example, I open the browser, some browser, Chrome. I enter the URL www.gmail.com and I enter my inputs, that is username, password, and I'm going to validate the login. So can I consider this as the work or the operations or the actions that we perform? So I open a browser. Opening a browser is an action. I type the URL gmail.com. This is an action. I enter username and the password and I click on the login button. That is an action. So these actions are represented in Java in terms of methods. Observe at the high level. Opening the browser is one action or one work. Second, enter the URL, that is another action. Next, login. Entering the username and password and logging in to the application is another action. Hence, in my class called test case class, just observe in this class I have three methods. One is called open browser, next one is called enter URL, and the last one validate login, just simply login, any name of the method, login. Okay, let's not talk about this input output. Three functions or three operations: open the browser, enter the URL, and then login. So now let us understand. For me to open the browser, I need an input. Which browser? I can open Mozilla or IE or Chrome, Opera, different browsers. So that's why here I've taken an input as what is the name of the browser. Okay, so when you're opening this browser, you should pass what is the type of browser or name of the browser that you would like to open. Example here, I have just given open browser and I'm passing the value called Mozilla Firefox. So Mozilla Firefox is open. Next, enter the URL. So what is the input? The URL is an input. You remember this? I was explaining you on the other day that whenever we write any method, the name of the method, open, close, and here it takes input and here it is going to return you the output. This is an output, this is an input, this is implementation. Okay, here it can be, I strongly remember I was mentioned that any number of inputs, but output can be only one. So this is the structure of the entire method, right? Similarly, observe, this is the method. It is not returning anything and it is taking one input. To enter the URL, The one input is what is the actual URL. Okay, so there are two methods. Another method called login. Okay, this login method, to perform the login action, two things are required. One is username and the other one is password. Okay, it's going to check if the username and password is proper, then don't worry about all these things. Let me just copy this and explain what this method does. In between, if you have any questions, you can ask me. Just for time being, just observe. I don't have any logic. My method starts here. My method starts here and ends here. Ends here. This typically I call it as method body. Okay. In this method, what I'm doing is when someone passes the input, this we call it as input parameters. First input parameter, second input parameter. Okay, if someone passes the value, let's assume that someone is passing the value admin, and the password is admin123. Someone is passing the data. Okay, username and the password. In this method, what I'm supposed to do, I have to check whether the username and password is same or not. Here only two possibilities. Username and password is valid, or second possibility, invalid. If username and the password is valid, then I return true. If the username and password is invalid, I return false. So what is the data type of true or false? Boolean. Hence I have considered the return type as Boolean. Okay, if username and password is valid, the method returns true. If the username password is invalid, then the method returns false. Okay, this is the logic of this method. Now let me introduce one more new topic, which is called operator. In the last example, that is a previous example called calculation, or in the calculator example, we have seen 20 plus 30 plus, this is an addition operator. What this does, it's going to add this and this. Multiplication operator, 10 multiplied by 20. Okay, similarly there is another operator called equality operator. Very important. It's going to check the equality of two data. Okay, so that is by using double equals. By using this double equals, we can check the equality. This is called equality operator. So now what I need to perform here, I need to check whether my username and the password is valid or not. So I need to really check. I need to consider username and password. And check that. How do I do that? If this is called condition checking. I'm checking the condition using if. What is the syntax for this? The syntax for that is write if, check for the condition, open, close. Let me explain you the meaning of this. You may already be knowing this is very fundamental concepts of any programming language. Okay, this is called, here I'm checking if this condition, this check for only true or false. This checks for true or false. Okay, if this is true, whatever is present here is executed. If this is false, this if condition or this part is not executed. It goes to the else part. If and else. If and else. It's something like, if true, do this. If not true, that is if it is false, do this. This is the syntax. Okay, simple example I'll give. Let's imagine integer age of a person is 10. Age of a person is 10. Now I have to issue the driving license for a particular user. For me, the criteria is age. If the age is above 16, then I issue the driving license. If not, I don't want to issue. So how can I check for that condition? I can check for that condition. Just give me a second. I'm going to open some. Okay. Let me open this and explain you. Okay. So now I'm going to check if age is greater than and equal to, if age is greater than or equal to 16, if greater than or equal to 16, issue driving license. Okay, else don't issue driving license. Okay, if age is greater than or equal to 16, then only issue the license, otherwise don't issue the license. This is like what we are doing here, not doing any great things here. We are just checking for some condition. What is the condition? Condition is the age. Okay, so this is called the scope of if, this is called the scope of else. Okay, so there is no rule that once you use if you need to use else. I can just use only if my condition then do something. What is the meaning? If condition is true, here please observe the age is 10. Here you are checking if the age is greater than or equal to 16. But what is the actual age here? What is the value of age? 10. You are checking if 10 is greater than equal to 16. So 10 is not greater than or not equal to 16. Hence this entire condition returns false. So it is like if of false, then this is not executed. It goes to the else block. That's the meaning. If this condition is true, then this is executed. If the condition is false, this is not executed. As simple as it. Okay, so this is called greater than or equal to operator. We have a lot of other operators like addition operator, subtraction operator, multiplication operator, division operator. Okay, I have equality operator. So these are all different operators that we use in the programming language. Okay. Now coming back to this example, just let me erase all this. Okay. What I'm doing here, I need to check whether the username and the password is say valid or not. So I'm going to check if username, that is the first parameter, equal to admin and not enough, and password is, let's assume, admin123, then return true. What is the meaning? If username and password is proper, return true. I'm going to close the method here. So the method starts here and ends here. Now I read the logic. Else, what is the meaning? Return false. So the value which I'm returning is true or false. The data type of true or false is boolean. So this is the return type of the method. The method takes two input, username and the password. So if my username is admin and password is admin123, then return true. What is the meaning? Valid user. If not, return false, that is invalid user. Okay. So assume that I'm passing admin and admin123. So obviously if condition is executed true and the method returns true value, let's assume instead of admin123 I pass a123. That's a wrong password. So username is admin and password is not admin123 because it is a123. Hence this is not executed because the condition returns false. Because of this is not executed. It goes to the else part and returns the value called false. Okay, so this is simple logic. Please observe here. I'm calling the method called login, passing the value, let's say admin and something. Something is the wrong password, right? So when I pass that, I've just written the logic in a different way here. I'm just considering a boolean variable called false. Okay, boolean variable called false. So what is the value I'm passing? Username is admin. I'm passing the password as something. When I pass this admin and something, just this method is executed. The execution start. This line is executed. When this line is executed, there is a variable called is valid user. By default, the value is false. Boolean is the data type. Now, this line is executed. If username is admin, super perfect, username is admin, and password is admin123, but in my case the password is something. So password is not matching. So that's why this is not executed. It doesn't go inside the if block. This is not executed because this condition, observe here, the condition, this condition is not executed, or this condition returns false because my password is not matching. Hence the if block is not executed, and then it goes to this, returns the value. What is the value? False. So the method returns false. Assuming that instead of something it is admin123, admin123, which is a proper password. Just assume instead of this wrong password it is admin123, which is proper password. Then what happens? It comes inside boolean, by default false is the value. It comes inside, username is admin and password is admin123, perfectly matches. Then this is executed. It comes within the if loop. It comes within the if loop, and the value becomes what? False value becomes true, and you are returning that variable. What is the data of that variable? True. So the method returns true. If it is wrong password, the method returns false. That's the logic. Okay, I've explained the logic. I've explained the logic with some image here. Please observe this. There is a method called login, takes username and password. There is a variable called boolean variable. Observe, I'm returning that variable. That variable data type is boolean. That variable data, I'm returning the variable. Variable data type is boolean. Hence, return type is also boolean. This is called return type. And these two are called parameters. This is condition check. I'm checking for the condition. If this and this condition, two conditions I'm checking here. Okay, this is called equality operator. This is to perform multiple operations. Okay, just go through it for a time being. If you have any questions, you can ask me. If you have any questions, you can ask me. So no one has any questions. Okay. I have another one. Please observe this. There is a method called same method, okay, login, which takes two parameters. We call it as parameter, and this entire is called as the method. Okay, this is the method name, return type. The method returns true or false. This is the actual return value or actual return data, and the data type is boolean. So I'm going to call the method by passing two values. At the passing end it is called as argument, and at the accepting end it is called as parameters. So I'm calling a method by passing the argument. The method is executed. Here I have written the logic. If username and password is proper, I return true, or the method returns false. When this method returns true or false, I am assigning the result of the method into another variable. The data type of that variable is boolean. This we already discussed in today's class. That is, when you call the method, when it returns the value, you can accept that boolean. Okay, this is called calling or invoking a method which returns some data. Just observe this, and if you have any questions, ask me. This images I can share with you. I shall close now. Okay, please observe the method. There is a method called open browser. So I want to test all these things. Now I need to open the browser, enter the URL and check whether it is a username and password is valid or not. So I have to test. So test is also another method. Test is also another method which I have written. Now I need to first open the browser. Open browser is method which is present in a class. Test is also another method which is the part of the same class. Hence I can call them directly. It is taking one parameter. I call the method and I pass the value. For example, Chrome. I pass the value Chrome. Now I'm opening the browser. Which browser? Chrome browser. So the method is executed. It prints. What is the value of browser name? Chrome. It prints Chrome browser open. Next, I have to enter the URL. Call this method. Call the method. It is taking one parameter called URL. Pass one argument. At the passing end it is called as argument. Pass the URL. http www.gmail.com. I'm passing, so the method is executed. Now I need to call another method. Please observe guys, whenever I call open browser, it is not returning anything. When I call enter URL method, it is not returning anything. But when I call the method called login method, okay, I need to pass username and password. When I call the login method, let's say admin, password I don't know, I'm entering wrong password, some wrong password I'm entering. Then the method returning some value, true or false value, so hence I should accept that value is valid, some variable name is valid. Now I need to check is valid. If is valid, then print a message called system dot out dot println of a message valid user. It prints a message called valid user. Okay, let us check with this with the proper username and the password. Let's say first admin 123. This is my proper username. This is the proper password. When I call the method returns true. If it is true, I'm printing the message. If I'm passing wrong password, the method is executed, returns false, the value will be false. If false, this is not executed, it goes to else part. You can write it in the same line, you can write it in different line, you can give many line gaps here, anything is fine. Okay, else part, I write system.out.println of invalid user. open, close, open, close, close, and this is the open. Okay, this is how I'm testing. Consider this as your test case. Okay, and now these are all my non-static methods. So what happens? This is my Java program. Okay, Java program execution starts from main method, but main method does not have anything to execute. So now if I want to call this method, what I'm supposed to do? Create an object of the class. What is the class name? Login test case. Login test case. Create an object of the class. Okay, login test case equal to new, create an object. This is how we create an object, and LTC dot, using the dot operator, you can call the method. What is the method name? Test method. Okay, using this dot operator I can call the method. Okay, this is my logic, but observe, admin 123 is the actual password, but in my case now I have given wrong password. Okay, now what I'm supposed to do, I have a .java program called as login test case.java. I need to compile that Java program, clear the screen. First compile java c login test case.java. If your Java program is proper and successfully compiled, then dot class is generated successfully. Now I need to run the dot class. When I say Java, and the class name, when I hit enter, what happens? JVM first loads this dot class file into its memory, and this process is called as class loading, and after that the main method is executed. When the main method is executed, inside the main method we are creating the object and calling the test method. How many times? Only once. Hence my test method is executed only once. Internally it is going to call open browser, login, enter URL, login, and all the other method. If it is username password is proper, it prints valid user. Otherwise it prints a message invalid user. Let me execute. See, Chrome browser open, page with the URL is also open, then invalid user. Why it is printing invalid user? Because my username password is wrong. If I enter proper 123, this is the proper password. Now can I say I made the modification to my program? When I make the modification to my program, save the program properly, okay, compile the Java program, same Java program once again, because I made the modification, compile it, the dot class is overridden. Now run the program once again. This time it is printing valid user because I have entered the proper username and password. So this is a simple demonstration of methods, how one method can call the other method, what is the syntax to create an object, etc., etc. So I'm done with this method basics. If you have questions, ask me. Do you remember in the second class, a student, I think Nitin, has asked a question that when in my project I have multiple .class files or I have multiple programs, do you need main method or do we need main method in all the classes? At that time I answered, when you have multiple classes, okay, if you consider all these as one project, then only one main method is enough. Only one main method is enough to run all the other classes. Okay, Let us see now. In my case, here, okay, what do? I don't write the main method here. I save the program. I don't write the main method here. I save the program. Okay. So I have two classes. One is login test case and the other one is calculator. And the other one is calculator. Okay. Diagrammatically, if I represent, I have one class. The class name is login test case. The other one is calculator dot class. Now, earlier I have written two main methods. One is here and the other one is here. This main method used to execute this class. This main method used to execute this class. Right? But this time what I'll do is I have removed. Just now I have removed the main methods from these two classes. So two classes are there which don't have the main method. Now I write another new class. I write another new class with main method. Within this main method, first I'm going to call this, then I can call this. Consider this as an engine of a train. This is one wagon and this is one wagon. I have given this example. A train engine can pull or make all the wagons to run. Consider this is one class, another class, another class, another class with one class with the main method. This is like an engine which makes all the other programs to run. In the same way, this is my wagon. This is one wagon. This is the engine of the train. This can pull all the other classes. Okay. So now I'm going to call this class as server. I'm going to call this class as server, or you can call this class as engine. Anything, name whatever you want into this class. Okay. Let me write another class. I write a class with the class name. I give the name as engine. Okay. And I write public static. If I make mistakes, please let me know. If I make any spelling mistakes, let me know. Public static void main. Here uppercase yes. String array. It is string array as an argument. Let me save the program and I call it as engine.java because the class name and the file name must be same. Okay. Now I have written the class called engine with the main method. Here I need to call the method of this class and I need to call the method of this class. So which are those methods? Inside the login test case, I need to call a method called test method, and inside the calculator, I need to call a method called perform calculation. Hence, to call any methods of a class from the other class, earlier to call the method of one class from the other methods of the same class, that was the scenario. But here calling the methods of one class from the other class, I need to create an object. I need to create an object. What is the name of the class? Calculator equal to new. This is how we create an object, and using the dot operator I call the method. What is the method name? Perform calculation. Perform calculation. Okay. Now similarly I need to create an object of this class. What is the name of the class? Login test case. Login test case equal to new login test case, and using the dot operator I can call the methods. What are the method? The test method. I'm going to call this method. So creating an object using the dot operator, call the method. I call it as call or invoke the method. Same thing for this class. Okay. Observe, there is no main method, and here also no main method, but main method is present in one class. Consider these three are the members of your project. Just consider you have one project, two classes, calculator.class, login test class. Similarly, in future you may add multiple dot classes here, but only one class with a main method is enough to run this entire project. Okay, now we have made much modifications for calculator, engine, lot of other classes. Okay, let me compile all the classes once. Go to command prompt, materials, I'm in the same location, Java C. I need to compile all the programs once, star.java. At the same time you can compile all the programs. Earlier I used to mention the name, but now I have mentioned star.java. So what does it do meaning? It's going to compile all the programs. Just hit enter. There is some problem in a class cannot find the symbol calculator. Okay, where this is present, the problem is in engine. Just observe, in the engine.java, in the line number 6, there is an error. What is that? Cannot find the symbol calculator. Please observe, I have done a mistake here. What is that? Class name is, instead of calculator, there is a spelling mistake. It is called C is missing. But here I have given the class name as calculator properly. So there is no class called calculator. Please observe, I have done the mistake here. So let me do one thing. Go to my program. Instead of this, I give this as calculator. Now it is proper. Okay. Change the file name also. Calculator. Fine, calculator. Let me compile the Java program once again. Okay. Is there any error again? Again the same thing. Okay. There is a problem in a program called server. There is a Java program called server Java program. There also same thing. Instead of we have done the spelling mistake. Okay. Let me delete this program. Let me delete the program. Okay. Now, just for your easy understanding, let me delete everything. Okay. Clear the screen, and once again I'm going to compile all the Java programs. This time without any errors, all the dot class programs are generated. Okay. Now which program I can run? I can run the program which has got the main method, and I already insisted that many times. I said that you cannot run a Java program which does not have the main method, right? So I can run the Java program which has only main method. So which is the class which has the main method? Engine is the class which has the main method. So I can run this program. So it is calling all the methods of calculator and calling the methods of test case. This is how we execute in the real time.